Louisiana-style red beans and rice, oyster and artichoke bisque, Louisiana jambalaya. Welcome to Dishing It Out Louisiana Style. I'm Angela Bertone, your host. In Louisiana, we love to cook, we love to eat, and we love to talk about it. In Louisiana, we not only cook with our hands, we cook with our hearts. Some people call that Southern hospitality. We call that a way of life. Don't you just love it when you have enough leftovers from a previous meal so that you don't have to go through all that prep time again? Well, that's what we're going to do today. We're taking some of our prep from our previous meal of tacos and we're going to make refried beans, fajitas, and of course we already have our homemade salsa, so we're going to make some homemade chips to go with that. So first of all, what we're going to do is get our refried beans going, and I would venture to bet that you've never had refried beans like this. These are not from a can, but we're going to take some pinto beans that I have prepared the night before, and we'll go over that briefly for you. And now I'm putting what I call liquid gold. This is just the fat from the bacon that we cooked earlier, because it takes a long time to cook bacon. And I'm putting a couple of tablespoons. When I was growing up, my mother would actually make a full pound of bacon and leave all the bacon grease in the bottom of the skillet to refry the beans. I've got my beans done. Let me tell you how I prepared them. I basically took some dried beans, pintos, I cleaned them in a colander, and then soaked them overnight. You don't have to. And then I cooked them just with salt in a pressure cooker. And they're sort of like the texture, if you're accustomed to eating a boiled peanut, that's similar to what they'll taste like. They're tender, a little bit firm. And so I'm going to take the beans out of the juice and I'm going to put them in my bacon fat, and that's where the name refried comes from. You hear that? So what we're going to do is I'm just going to take an old-fashioned potato masher, mash the beans. You're going to see how fast this is. This is inexpensive, delicious. You can use it as a side dish, which is what we're going to do today. You can make burritos. You can also make tostadas. Mother always had refried beans and a sort of a macaroni and cheese that we call sopita. And every day when we came in from school, that's what we were expecting to have, was sopita and refried beans. Now they're a little bit dry because we do scoop out, but I need some liquid, so you can add the bean juice back from your pot. I'm just going to crumble some bacon, and to a pound of beans, Mama used to use a pound of bacon. We're then going to add some Colby Longhorn cheese, which we've already have grated. And you can put as much as bacon and cheese as you like. I try to go a little bit lighter than what I did growing up. The only thing that you're going to have to do when you're done with all these few little steps is taste it to make sure it has the right amount of salt. And you want to taste it after the fact because cheese is salty, and so is the bacon. And the more bacon you put and the more cheese, the less salt you're going to need, because those are salty as well. Now, growing up in Louisiana, making homemade refried beans for my friends, it was like the biggest treat to make a homemade burrito or tostada and have real fresh homemade refried beans. Wonderful. We're going to set these aside. And now what we're going to do is prepare our chicken for our fajitas. I have some chicken breast with no skins, and I'm going to cut them across the grain, and I'm going to cut it really thin. And the reason I'm going across the grain is so that whenever my chicken cooks, it won't be long and stringy. And I like them thin because they cook quicker, but also, again, when you wrap it inside the tortilla with all the other ingredients, it just makes it easier to take a bite. So this is just some extra virgin olive oil. So we're going to put our chicken in here. Now once the chicken is in the skillet, what we'll do is we'll prepare our other ingredients that we're going to have in our fajita. And regardless of what I put in my fajitas, basically what I have today is I've handpicked for you guys as my guests. But a lot of times what I'll do is whatever I have in my refrigerator but I want to get rid of and I don't want to waste, I'll utilize that last little bit of whatever it is to make my fajitas. So I've got bell pepper and mushrooms, onions. You can use tomatoes, just any type of vegetables that you like to go into your stir fry. So I'm going to take a second to wash this up so we don't cross-contaminate, and then we'll prepare those other ingredients. So give me just a second. Okay, this is really hot. All we're going to season this with is a fajita seasoning that I bought from a local Mexican store that's known for having all types of ingredients that you can't find in your local supermarket. They actually make this fajita mix and sell it, so I don't really know what's in it, but if I didn't have that fajita mix, basically what I would put on this chicken would be salt, black pepper, garlic, which is my 3 favorite spices that I use to cook, but I would also then probably add a little bit of cumin, not much. You can also put some chipotle, which is really good in a fajita. Or if you don't have chipotle, you can use a paprika, like a really nice smoked paprika, and that'll work really well on your fajita. Now I'm not gonna season a whole lot, just gonna season a little bit because this can burn. And it has, this is a little molcajete that you just grind up stuff. It was just nice to put it in there and have it on the side to display for you. But you can see it's a lot of ground peppers of different kinds that they've roasted and ground, and it's already salted. So I'm just going to sprinkle it lightly on my chicken. And what is that? Just a teaspoon over the whole thing. And then I'll do about the same amount once I put my vegetables in. What we're going to do is when we come back from break, we're going to cut up all of our vegetables that's going to go in our stir fry, incorporate that, and then we'll have just a little bit of food for thought. So we can, while we're in the kitchen preparing food for our body, we can't leave out the soul, right? We'll be right back. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to add something to our menu that I forgot to tell you about earlier, which is Spanish rice. How we're going to have refried beans and fajitas without our Spanish rice. So I have a 1.5 cups of long grain rice. I've got a skillet with some peanut oil. We're going to fry this up. And this is pretty much the longest part of cooking this rice, is actually browning it. We're going to season it with garlic, black pepper, salt, and a green onion as well as white onion. So we've got our green onion, our white onion, and I do like it a little bit chunky. You can chop it up smaller if you like that, but I like the sweet onion to be have good texture whenever I eat it. Now once that grease begins to get pretty hot, or the oil begins to get pretty hot, I'm going to have to really stick with it and not do anything in the meantime, because what will happen is once it starts getting to where it is right now, if I don't stir it continually, it'll get too brown on one side. And so what your objective is to try and brown the rice evenly on all sides. Once the rice begins to brown and gets starts turning white first, and then it'll begin to brown. When it's white kind of all evenly throughout the pan, I'll add my vegetables to it. Okay, so you can actually see my skillet beginning to smoke. We're going to turn it down, and it's starting to brown. So I'm going to go ahead and add my white onions in here. You see how it's starting to get a little golden brown? We're going to go ahead and add these green onions to it. And that smells, that toasty smell of the rice smells so good. I find it interesting too, you know how I like to give you these words and tell you their meanings and have a little food for the soul. The word rice means to polish, or the final process in something. And the word fajita means to bundle up something, or to tie it up, or to bind it, like you're getting ready to store it or something. So both of those seem to be like a final process. Like if you're cutting a bundle of wood, you'd bundle up and then you'd set it aside. Okay, that looks really good. It's just the color you want. So I'm going to go ahead and add my tomato sauce, and we're going to stir it in. I'm going to turn my fire down really low. This steams up. It's cooling that pot down. It's pulling the starches out. All right, so we're going to go ahead and put a full cup of water And then I'm going to add just a little bit more, not much, because the consistency of the tomato sauce. Bring it to a boil and then turn it down. Set your timer. And it is boiling now, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it down to a simmer. Set my timer. Okay, let's get those vegetables chopped so we can add those to our chicken. I have a zucchini. And when I'm going to do a fajita like this, I like to cut my zucchini in half. I like a small zucchini as opposed to a really large one. And then I'm going to slice them in half again. And then I'm going to make long skinny strips that just lays well inside the fajita. So you can see it's not going to take long to cook because they're very thin. And of course, as again, we talk about a Mexican dish, it's full of color with the green, the bell pepper, the yellow of the onion, and the chicken kind of takes on a golden color. The fajita spices are like a rust color. We've got mushrooms that are already diced, and we're going to slice up some fairly large onions as well. This is a sweet yellow onion, and I do prefer something that's got a good sweet flavor. We're going to cook this to where it's translucent and kind of golden. And I like these also. I've got the onion. Let me just go ahead and cut the bottom of it off so it'll lay flat. But I like a large, chunky piece of onion in my fajita, so we're going to leave it fairly large. And when they fall apart, you can see they're going to fall apart similar to the size that the chicken is, as well as the zucchini. We're going to do the same thing with the red pepper. As far as their size, we're going to try and stay consistent. And that's two reasons. Not only for how it's going to fit in the fajita, but also it should all cook about the same time. Now the bell pepper, now we have our zucchini, our onions, our bell pepper, and we also have some mushroom. The mushrooms are already chopped and ready to go. Our chicken is ready to add to it our beautiful vegetables with our zucchini, our white onions, our red bell pepper, our sliced mushrooms, whatever else you like. We're going to take a little bit more of our seasoning that we had before, and we're going to sprinkle it on our vegetables. Okay, I think that rice is just about what we said. I've moved it over to the side, and I've got my beans here. These fajitas, I think everything looks really good. The onions are starting to get a little bit brown. They look delicious. I'm going to go ahead and turn that fire off. And I'm going to see if my fire's hot enough for my tortilla. I'm just going to pinch a little corner of it off. And it is not, oh, almost, yeah, I think it is. It floated right to the top. That's how you know it's good. Okay, tortilla into the grease. This is just a homemade chip is all this is. You do the same thing if you're going to make a tostada. You're just going to fry it flat and whole. I like to put a little grease on the top so it's kind of frying evenly. It does float to the top and the grease wants to come off of it where it's dry on one side, but I just keep tapping it down, trying to get the grease, or the oil I should say. You can tell in Louisiana we call all sorts of things something else, but you get my drift. You know, when we were children, we would get at the stove with Mom, and she pretty much assisted if we were frying something like this in hot oil. But she would let us fry the tostadas, and that was a big deal because we thought it was dangerous, you know. And she would stand there and watch us, and gosh, I can't tell you how many tostadas we would fry to feed our large family, not to mention all the company that was hanging out with us, and just felt like a big family. And that looks good. It looks like it's good and golden. You could even go darker than that if you'd like. We're now going to just show you this beautiful rice. Remember I told you all the vegetables floated to the top? So there's the garlic sliced in half. There's all the onions there. See how fluffy that rice is? And that comes by timing it and by measuring it 2 to 1. So it's going to be really good. A light texture, light flavor to add to the spices and the hot salsa and all of that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to move this over to the side, and we're going to prepare the tortilla. I'm going to show you 2 different ways to do the tortilla, so that if you don't like a fajita that's just wrapped in a tortilla and you want it a little bit cooked, you can experience that as well. So we're going to have 2 tortillas. These are large white tortillas. We're going to turn our fire on. I'm going to show you the first one. It's just going to be an open flame tortilla. We're going to get a little bit brown, maybe a little, even a couple little black spots on the outside of it is real traditional. My daddy would even say, burn it a little bit for me. So it's not uncommon to see a tortilla have a little extra darker edges, or even have to pat out the fire as you're flipping your tortilla. This is how we grew up. This was our bread. Sometimes it was even our fork. If I gave my daddy a fork, he would ask me, what's this for? And I'd say, I don't know, whatever you want to use it for. Okay, turning my fire off. See that? How it's got kind of little black spots on it? It's hot, really hot, so if you toss it, it just kind of keeps you from burning. I'm going to set it on my plate. We're going to plate up one of the fajitas. So now we're going to top it with our cheese, our lettuce. I've got some avocado that I put a little bit of lime juice on. And then of course you can put your sour cream. And I like to spread my sour cream out along the whole body so that I get a little taste of that sour cream in every single bite. And then we're going to put our salsa on top. Gosh, this looks so good. Can't have too much salsa, right? How easy is that? Now that is a mess. Make sure you have plenty of napkins because you're going to need it. Got our little crunchy tortilla on top so you can dip it in your salsa. All the color, the green, the orange, the white. Homemade Spanish rice and homemade refried beans with all that wonderful crunchy smoked bacon. How beautiful is that? Fajita, Spanish rice, and refried beans. And before we leave, I'm going to show you one last trick, how to make this fajita. And as we fry up this last one for you, we'll talk to you a little bit about our food for the soul. Remember we talked about being, fajita means to bundle or to wrap something up. You know, of course this will be a wrap when we're done. But when I think of bundle, the thing that comes to my mind is babies. My mother, when a new baby was born in our family, she would take that little bundle in her arms, and she would always have to unwrap it and practically undress the baby just to look at it. She'd check its hands and feet and turn it over and just look every little spot. And of course then she'd wrap it back up really, really tight and put it on her shoulder. And my mom was known for 2 major things with her grandbabies. One, rocking them to sleep while she did what she called la-la to them. And another thing she would do is she would always tell stories. And her stories would be made-up stories that usually involved that grandchild. So when I think of a bundle, I think of a little bundle in my arms. And as a grandma, one of my greatest joys is to hold that little bundle. And my youngest granddaughter, she's just fixing to turn a year. And when I ask her for a kiss, she doesn't know what that means yet. So she lays her head on my shoulder and she actually hugs me. The best hug you could ever get. So we're just adding a little twist to an open flame fajita. We're just doing it in the grill, kind of like you would a taco. So there you have it, a bundle. So join us next time on Dishing Out Louisiana Style. And you go home and hug those babies and bundle them up while you make them some fajitas for your family to enjoy. See you next time.